a walnut raisin cookie. Welcome to Sanjeev Kapoor Khazana. This is Chef Anil Rohira, and I'm here to share with you some of my favorite recipes. I am one of the corporate pastry chefs for Falkland, Switzerland. I'm going to share with you one of my favorite cookie recipes, very simple, a walnut raisin cookie. Let me walk you through the ingredients. Refined flour. Here we have refined flour. This is part of the recipe component, and some extra refined flour just for dusting purposes towards the later part of the recipe. Diced butter at room temperature. In your recipe, you will find two quantities of sugar. One is the recipe component, and this is just for the finishing purposes towards the end. Here we have golden raisins, some lightly toasted chopped walnuts, a little bit of salt, some vanilla essence, and finally some egg wash. Eggs beaten with a little bit of milk. If you like the eggless version, then you could use just straight milk. Okay, so let's start first. What we do is we take our sugar and we put it in the mixing bowl. It's very important that you have a paddle attachment, okay? You do not need to use a whisk or a dough hook. So this is the paddle attachment, as you can see. Okay, after the sugar's in, it's time to put the butter. You see the butter is the perfect texture. Nice and soft, not too hard. And then, so we start mixing first on slow speed. You don't have to get too aggressive. Keep the mixing nice and slow initially till the sugar and the butter combine, and then gradually you can increase your speed. Now the idea here is not to incorporate a lot of air, so we really don't have to get aggressive with the mixing. Now when we talk of mixing or making a cookie, the best thing about a cookie, in my opinion, other than the flavor, is the texture of the cookie. And all that depends in this mixing process right here. The mixing of the fat with the sugar, in this case butter, and incorporating of the flour. Okay, so depending on the proportion and ratio of your sugar, flour, eggs, and butter, those are the factors that will determine the quality or texture of the cookie. So now once you see your ingredients have been incorporated, we quickly stop the mixer and we will scrape the sides of the bowl. And this is to make sure that the sugar and the butter are well combined and the sugar will dissolve uniformly. Okay, so once they've combined, you can add your salt in and your vanilla. We'll give it about 4 or 5 minutes of mixing just to make sure it's well homogenized, and then we're going to add our flour. So mind you, this recipe has no eggs, so the entire texture and the consistency of the cookie is going to be very light and flaky. Okay, so the objective is once we add the flour, we want to make sure we do not overmix the cookie dough. So if you have a closer look, you will see the color has changed. It has become nice and light in color and in texture too. And it holds its form. We'll scrape the bowl one more time. It's best you get into the practice of scraping the bowl, okay? You can't do it too many times. And now we go in with the flour all at once. And what I'll do is I'll just make sure the flour gets to the bottom. Okay, we're going to bring the mixer back down. And we've got to be very careful here. We're going to combine just till everything comes together. You want to make sure you do not overmix the dough. The more you mix it, the denser the texture. You want a nice, light, flaky texture in the cookie. So we're going to keep a very close watch now as to what's happening in there. We still have 2 more ingredients to add, our walnuts and our raisins. Let's not forget those. And just when the dough is coming together, we're going to incorporate our walnuts and raisins. It'll be about right now. And we're going to mix it just till it comes together. You see, it's starting to leave the sides. We are just about ready now. And if you have a closer look, you can see already the formation of the texture of the cookie. You see the flakiness here? And that's what you want to keep to the very end of your baking. So now I can tell the texture is just right. I'm going to stop the mixing. So our dough is ready now, and depending on the size you desire, you can roll it out into logs. You know, it's always a good time for a cookie, whether it's the morning rush, you're out of the house in a hurry, you want to grab a glass of juice or cup of coffee and a small little cookie, or whether it's an evening or an afternoon snack for you. So depending on the size, you would roll it out into that specific form. So in this case, we have a sheet of butter paper. I mean, in different countries, they call it silicone paper, wax paper. So we're going to take a little bit of the dough. I mean, if you like this to be in the form of a petit four, you can even go really small in diameter. The dough seems to have a nice texture now. I'm just going to elongate it with my hands, roll it lightly. As you can see, it holds its form pretty well. Lightly roll it with your hands back and forth. So they make great amenities, small petit fours, good confections if you dip it in chocolate. Okay, you see it doesn't need much. And then I'm going to roll it. You can take some support if you like to make sure your structure is nice and round. Give it a little twist towards the ends so it's nice and flat. And then gently with your hands, roll it into logs. Okay, so now that we have our roll nice and round, we're going to take it and put it in the refrigerator for about 2 hours. So it's been about 2 hours. Let's take a look at the cookies and see if they are ready. I just can't wait. So you see, it feels firm. So we will unroll the paper. You can tell. See, we have a nice and round shape. What we're going to do here is we're going to lightly brush the cookie dough with some egg wash and milk. Now, like I said earlier, if you remember, if you like an eggless version of this cookie, you do not need to egg wash it. You can go straight with milk just to give it a light coating, and then we could sprinkle a little bit sugar. This is just to give a little bit of texture and sweetness. Now, if you don't like to add too much sugar to this, what you can also do is add chopped nuts. So in this case, it's walnuts, or if you're making an almond cookie, you can have chopped almonds here. So we'll make sure all the sugar gets on the cookie. And once we have this, we're going to take a knife and slice the cookie, okay? Make sure you cut nice and even slices. And we're going to arrange them on a sheet pan with butter paper. So these cookies will not spread a lot. Okay, they're going to kind of retain their shape. So once the cookies have been cut, you're going to lightly egg wash the top just for that nice golden brown color. You can either egg wash it, or you can have it milk wash, or you can leave them plain. So the difference between egg washing and leaving them plain is you'll get a nice, almost like a luscious golden brown on top versus a matte finish. So I prefer to wash these cookies especially. And once the cookies have been washed evenly, we're going to bake them at 175 degrees Celsius, and we'll have a look in about 10 minutes. Now that it's been about 12 minutes since we put the cookies in, let's go have a look if it's done. What we are looking for is a nice golden brown top, a nicely baked interior, and a nice crumbly texture. See, it's nice golden brown on the bottom and the top. The top has a sheen to it because the surface was egg washed.